Coming up, many of the bravest and most successful pilots of World War II would at some point be shot down by the enemy. If these pilots were able to bail out or crash land, many were imprisoned in harsh POW or concentration camps until the end of the war. In this video, however, we will take a look at one downed Allied pilot who, instead of staying in captivity, chose to escape the brutality of his Nazi captors by actually conspiring to steal the camp commander's personal aircraft. Hey guys, it's TJ, and before we get into this story about a stolen German plane, I'd like to give a big thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Now listen, if you don't want your data and private information stolen like the Heinkel HE-111 in this video, then you need a VPN, because they add privacy and security whenever you're online. In addition, VPNs can provide a ton of other awesome benefits. For example, I have a big video coming up, and I'm actually planning to travel to the US Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio for some of my research. Being the smart guy that I am, I want to make sure I'm getting the best price possible on plane ticket. So I've been using NordVPN to compare prices based on location, because sometimes you can get a better deal if you book it from somewhere else. Turns out the best deal that I found was actually in another country. Good thing I checked. And guess what? Right now NordVPN is offering a special deal for TJ3 viewers that gets you a nice discount on a 2-year plan plus 1 month free. And if you aren't satisfied, there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to check out this awesome offer, go to nordvpn.com/TJ3History or click the link in the description to get started. Now, without further ado, enjoy the historic tale of the stolen German bomber. Enjoy. Mikhail Petrovich Devitayev was born on July 8th of 1917 in a part of the Russian Republic as the youngest of 13 children. Devitayev began his service with the Red Army by receiving an education at a flying school and graduating as a pilot in 1940. He would go on to be posted to the front fighting in the skies less than a year later. He would score his first kill by downing a Ju-87 dive bomber in combat on June 25th of 1941, just 2 days after Germany attacked the Soviet Union. For this, he was awarded the esteemed Order of the Red Banner. However, his promising career would stall to a grinding halt just a few months later. After a combat mission on September 23rd, he was critically wounded after being hit in the left leg. Although he was severely injured, he was able to escape the engagement and return to base. It was likely a difficult landing for the young pilot, considering the extent of his wounds from combat. Unfortunately, this injury would put him in the hospital for a long and grueling medical recovery. In addition, he was rattled from the ordeal and was unsure if he was ready for combat again. So he was scheduled to be sent to a less rigorous combat unit after his recovery. Once cleared, he was assigned to a slower speed recon biplane, the PO-2. It was not until a run-in with renowned Soviet ace Alexander Pokryshky that Devitayev would regain his confidence to dogfight once again. In May of 1944, he resumed his fighter pilot duties after this meeting. Over time, he gained the rank of senior lieutenant, and as the commander of a section in the 104th Guardian Fighter Pilot Regiment, he was credited with destroying 9 enemy planes. On July 13th of 1944, Devitayev found himself in a precarious air battle. In this intense dogfight, despite his high level of skill and experience at this point, he would be on the wrong end of a German fighter's cannons. His aircraft took heavy damage from the German fighters, but despite this, he was able to maintain control of his plane and bring it down for a successful crash landing in a nearby field. Unfortunately, the area that he was shot down in was controlled by the Germans, and he would be taken into custody shortly after. He was captured and imprisoned as a German POW at the Lodz concentration camp in central Poland. Devitayev was so desperate to escape that he made an attempt just 1 month later. only to be captured and transferred to Sachsenhausen as a result. Over the next few months, Divitaev was assigned as part of a labor force that worked for the German missile program in a remote area. The conditions here were hellish to say the least. Prisoners were forced to clear unexploded bombs by hand and repair runways in rigorous working conditions. The hostile security guards were strict and threatened the prisoners with vicious, snarling dogs regularly to keep them in line. There was one key observation that Divitaev made about this particular camp, however. He noticed that on the very runway where they were forced to do manual labor, the camp commander kept his own personal HE-111 twin-engine aircraft parked for his personal travels. This gave him a brilliant idea that would eventually inspire him to make history. As Divitaev got to know the other members of his labor crew, he determined a few that he could trust. He convinced 3 prisoners in particular that, if given the chance, he could pilot them to safety. The other Soviets agreed and conspired to create an airtight escape plan. On the afternoon of February 8, 1945, the Soviet prisoners launched their escape. 10 of the Soviet men, including Divitaev, were assigned to work at the runway with the German guard, leading them to their posts. To set things into motion, one of the prisoners grabbed a nearby crowbar and brought it down on the German guard, killing him quickly as another one of their group hurried to strip him of his clothes. Soon, this prisoner had the guard's outfit on and inconspicuously led the gang of Soviets to the HE-111 bomber that was parked on the runway nearby. The prisoners quickly and quietly took over the plane without being noticed, and Divitaev swung into the pilot's cockpit. The engines were started and the propellers of the plane began to spin to life. At this point, many of the German guards are likely a little confused, but their confusion quickly turns to surprise as they realize what is happening. As Divitaev pushes up the throttle, guns stationed around the camp fire to life in an attempt to stop the stolen aircraft. But the Soviet prisoners have already begun moving too quickly. In a few moments they are down the runway and the German plane takes to the air. Now, I don't exactly have any historical information to back this part up, but I would like to imagine that as the HE-111 took off down the runway against the pursuit of gunfire and German soldiers, a roar of cheers and happiness came from all of the concentration camp prisoners below, despite the inevitable punishment that would likely come later. Regardless of that, the takeoff from Divitaev is likely sloppy and dangerous, flying a plane that he is completely untrained in. Quite possibly one of the worst takeoffs of his flying career. But there is no doubt that it was likely his favorite. Staying close to the ground to try and maintain a low profile, Divitaev flies the plane of the Soviet escapees towards friendly lines. Along the way, because he is in a German aircraft, he and his crew are pummeled with Soviet air defenses, but fortunately they are able to dodge a fatal hit. Once beyond friendly lines, the plane comes in for a landing at a Soviet airfield. Again, there is likely a great deal of confusion among the personnel at the airfield, and the landing is likely not a good one, but he brings it in successfully with everyone on board safe. Unfortunately, the original jubilation upon landing would turn to disappointment and anger for Divitaev and his crew as they were taken into custody. The escapees attempted to provide vital information on the German missile program to the Soviet leaders and explain their escape, especially regarding the V-1 and V-2 models. However, despite their critical information, they were not greeted warmly. The Soviet Union's Interior Ministry, the NKVD, outright refused to believe Divitaev after hearing his story, on the account of the Soviet leaders retorting that it was impossible for prisoners to take over without any form of German cooperation. In other words, the escapees were deemed as good as enemies and they were not to be trusted. Upon being discharged, 7 of the escapees were sent to serve in a penal military unit, with 5 of them being killed in action in the months that followed. The other 3 officers, including Divitaev, were sent to serve time in prison while the investigations dragged on for months, digging deep into their claims and analyzing their backgrounds. By November of 1945, after the war had ended, Divitaev was discharged from the military and classified as a criminal, which made finding any work difficult. But the story would eventually turn towards a happier ending later on thanks to some friends in high places. WWII's record as a criminal would be cleared in 1957, when the head of the Soviet space program would personally argue for his case to the authorities, citing that the information they received from him and the other escapees was critical for the success of the Soviet space program. With his case cleared, Senior Lieutenant Mikhail WWII was named a hero of the Soviet Union on August 15th. His incredible and shocking story captured the attention of the public, and he became the subject of several books, and just this year a movie was made about his courageous story. By the time he passed away in 2002, he was highly decorated with an array of awards to his name, and he is remembered as one of the greatest heroes of World War II. I hope you enjoyed this historical recreation. Please make sure to click subscribe and comment if you have any ideas for future videos. If you want to support my content and get awesome bonus videos, please check out the Patreon link in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.